We dive into the story, don't forget to like the video and tell us in the comments where you're watching from.
The sky had turned the color of rust by the time Michael Creel finished chopping wood behind the barn. The day had been long, dry, and hot, like every other that season, but something about the way the air held still made him uneasy. He stood with his hands on his hips, back stiff from the work, eyes scanning the horizon out of habit. Not for anyone in particular. He just didn't like surprises. Michael was 40. He didn't look it from a distance, but up close, the lines on his face told the story. Years as a cavalry horse wrangler had given him scars under the shirt, a bad knee that acted up when the weather shifted, and a way of reading people that didn't rely on their words. Folks in town didn't ask him much. He wasn't rude, just quiet. After the flood that took his wife and son 3 years back, he'd moved into this old ranch tucked between two mesas, rebuilt it with his own hands, and stayed clear of anything that didn't need his help. That evening, he was walking back toward the house with a bucket when movement caught his eye near the dry trail that cut past the trough. A figure, low to the ground. Too small to be a man, too slow to be riding. He stopped cold. His fingers tightened on the bucket handle. The sun was low, making it hard to see details, but he could tell someone was crawling. He walked closer, boots crunching on packed dirt. 30 yards out, he saw her clearly, barefoot, dress torn across the back and shoulders, one hand dragging behind her like it wasn't working right. Her legs were coated in dust, knees scraped raw, and blood darkened the side of her thigh. She didn't look up until he was 5 steps away. Her voice barely came out. "Don't look between my legs, cowboy. Something bit me." Michael didn't answer. He set the bucket down, knelt beside her slowly, eyes narrowing on the wound. Her thigh was already swollen near the top, just below the line of her underwear. 2 puncture marks sat deep, surrounded by angry red flesh. Snakebite, close to the femoral artery. He didn't ask what kind of snake. It didn't matter. He unbuckled the knife from his belt. Her hand jerked toward him weakly. "I said don't. I'm not here to hurt you," he said. That was all. No comfort, no smile. He slid the blade through the cloth gently, exposing the injury. The bite looked fresh, maybe less than an hour. Her leg was twitching. He leaned in, sucked hard once, spat in the dirt, then again. Blood mixed with saliva. He didn't speak. Her fingers dug into the ground. She passed out. Michael cut a clean strip from the hem of her dress, tied it tight above the wound, then slid his arms beneath her. She was lighter than she should have been. Her head lolled against his chest. She was burning up already. Inside, he moved quickly. Clear the cot. Set her down. His cabin was one room, with stove, work table, bunk in the corner, shelves lined with jars and tools. He went to the kettle, poured hot water into a tin cup, added crushed poppy root from a pouch in the drawer, and stirred it with a spoon until the powder dissolved. He lifted her head gently, braced her neck with one hand, and eased the cup to her lips. She gagged once, then swallowed. As she lay there, breathing shallow, he got a better look at her. Late 20s, maybe, Apache features mixed with something else, maybe Mexican. Her face was sunburned, skin cracked, lips blistered. Her wrists had bruises. So did her ankles. Some were new. Michael checked her pulse. Weak, but there. He moved to his workbench, pulled out a worn cloth, cleaned the blade he'd used, then went back to the cot and sat down on the crate beside it. He didn't take off his boots, just leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, watching her chest rise and fall. She'd run. That much was clear. He didn't know from who or how far. But the bite hadn't killed her yet. She had a chance. He would give her that. The room was silent except for the slow creak of the roof boards cooling in the evening air. Michael didn't try to make sense of why she was there. It didn't matter. She needed help. That was enough. For now, he would watch. For now, he would stay. He didn't plan to sleep. Not tonight. The room smelled faintly of burnt wood and iron. Maeva opened her eyes slowly, lids stuck from dried sweat. Her throat hurt. Her head throbbed. She didn't move right away. The ceiling above her was made of rough-hewn planks. One of them cracked clean through. It creaked when wind pushed against the outside walls. For a second, she couldn't remember where she was. Her body ached too much to guess. Then it came back in flashes, The brush tearing her skin, the rattle in the grass, the cowboy's boots near her face, the pressure on her leg. His hands, not rough, not greedy, just efficient, focused. Then darkness again. She tried to sit up. Pain shot through her thigh and made her gasp. A voice spoke before she could fall back. Careful. He stood by the stove, turning a kettle over a flame that looked like it had been burning all night. The man didn't look at her yet. His back was broad, shirt sleeves rolled just past the elbows, the side of his jaw marked by a few days' growth. His hands moved steady, no rush in a way. He lifted the lid, poured into a mug, set it down. You're at my place. You came in with a snake bite. Almost too late. She licked her lips, but they cracked. You. Her voice cracked too. You looked. I did. He finally turned. Had to. He walked over and handed her the mug. His fingers brushed hers by accident. He didn't react. Neither did she. The warmth of the drink hit her stomach like a stone. Not because it hurt, but because it meant she was alive. How long? She asked. Since dusk yesterday. He pulled over a chair, sat across from the bed. Not close enough to crowd her, but not far enough to seem afraid. Fever broke before dawn. You're past the worst. She shifted again, slower this time. The fabric of her dress had been pinned at the thigh with one of his shirt buttons, the cut wrapped clean in cloth that looked boiled and tied by someone who'd done this kind of thing before. Her jaw tightened. Who are you? Michael Creel. She nodded once. Mava. They didn't shake hands. He didn't ask where she'd come from, and she didn't offer it. But she noticed his eyes scan the bruises on her wrists, the half-healed cuts along her collar. He didn't flinch. He didn't pity her either. Instead, he stood again, moved to the shelf, brought down a small tin, and set it beside the mug. For the swelling. Ointment's bitter, but it works. Mava took it. Her fingers trembled. She hated that. Hated showing weakness, especially after what she'd crawled out of. But Michael didn't point it out. He was already back by the stove, stirring something in a pan that smelled faintly of beans and salt pork. She looked around the room more closely. Everything had its place. Nails lined up on a wood slab. Rope coiled neatly. Tools sharpened and oiled. A shelf of folded cloth. A rifle in the corner, not locked up, but not flaunted either. This wasn't a drunkard's shack or a lonely man's pit. It was lived in, but clean. Useful. You live alone? He nodded. She looked at him again. His face didn't give away much. There was something settled in his eyes, like someone who'd made peace with being left alone. Mava rubbed at her arm. You're not going to ask where I came from? He shook his head. You'll say when you're ready. No man had ever answered her like that. No man had ever waited. They sat in silence again, the kind that didn't push or pull. Just was. When she finished the drink, he took the mug and rinsed it without a word. She laid back slowly, the pain fading but not gone. Her body still didn't feel like hers, but it was here, and it was safe for now. Outside, a horse snorted in the corral. Somewhere, a hinge creaked in the breeze. Michael opened the door halfway, stood there for a long moment, just watching the empty trail. Mava turned her face to the wall and finally slept without fear. The morning came hot and clear, with no clouds to break the sun's climb. Cicadas screamed from the mesquite trees just past the fence. Dust shimmered off the rocks behind the barn. Inside the cabin, the stove had gone cold, and the bed was empty. Michael noticed it the second he stepped back in with an armload of firewood. He didn't call her name, just paused near the doorway, eyes drifting toward the folded blanket at the foot of the cot, then down to the small tin of salve sitting untouched beside it. The cabin was quiet. He set the wood down, wiped his hands on his trousers, and stepped outside again, scanning the yard. She was near the corral, holding onto the fence with both hands, her left leg stiff and shaking as she tried to shift weight onto it. The makeshift bandage had loosened. Her breathing was shallow, brow wet, jaw clenched hard against the pain. He didn't say anything. Mava glanced over, then looked away just as quick. She didn't want help. That much was plain. Michael walked past her toward the barn. He opened the door, grabbed a leather strap from the pegboard, and came back out with it coiled in one hand. She watched without speaking. He knelt near her and tightened the bandage with clean cloth and a new strap, tugging it until it held her thigh steady. She didn't flinch. You'll tear it open again if you don't slow down, he said, standing. I don't like lying down, she replied. Her voice was dry but steady. You don't have to lie down, but you need to pace it. She nodded once. No attitude, just truth. They stood like that for a while. Two people not used to talking. Two people too tired for pretending. You work with horses? She asked, eyes on the corral. Used to. Cavalry first, then private work. Now just mine. She looked over at the stallion in the pen, a tall black with deep eyes and a notched ear. What's his name? Doesn't have one. That's no good, she said. He looks like he earned something. Michael gave the faintest smirk, then looked back at the house. You hungry? She didn't answer, just turned and followed him. Inside, she moved slower. Her leg dragged a bit, but she didn't complain. She took a seat on the crate near the table, both hands resting in her lap like she was holding something fragile that might spill. Michael served 2 plates, fried eggs, a thin strip of bacon, dry cornbread. She ate fast but without desperation. Measured. Focused. Like someone who'd gone hungry before and learned how not to look starved. When she finished, she sat back, rubbing her thumb along the edge of the tin plate. I came from north of here, she said finally. Camp in the hills. Small group of men. Didn't give names. Michael didn't move. They kept me after a raid, she went on. Killed the folks I was with. Took what was left. Her voice didn't tremble, but her fingers pressed harder against the tin. I waited until the younger one got drunk and wandered off. Then I ran. Didn't think I'd make it. You did, Michael said. Mavis studied his face. You believe in luck? No. Me neither. The words hung for a second. Then she reached for the bandage again, testing the leather strap. This'll hold, she said. I'll start sweeping the porch. You don't need to do that. I know. She stood. He didn't stop her. Outside, the broom leaned against the wall. She picked it up with both hands and started from the edge inward, pushing slow and even, her weight shifting as she found her rhythm. Michael sat on the porch step with a tin cup of coffee, silent as ever. She didn't ask for his story. He didn't offer it. But for the first time in years, the sound of bristles on wood didn't feel like noise. It sounded like someone meant to stay. Late afternoon brought wind down from the high rocks, sharp enough to carry grit into the eyes. The kind of wind that wore out a man's patience if he let it. Michael didn't. He was out by the fence line with pliers in one hand, a coil of wire slung over his shoulder, his hat pulled low, and his mouth set in a line. A rail had come loose in the night. Might have been coyotes nosing through.